Garrett Lemieux, and today I'm going to talk about my 2 user stories for the VIP website. My first user story. As a PI, I would like to review each user's resume in order to accept or reject a user into a project he or she has applied to. User story description. Once a user submitted an application for a project, the PI needs to review the user's information and make a decision on whether the user should be accepted into the project or rejected. The acceptance criteria. The PI can view all projects and users applied for each project, and when he or she clicks on the user's resume button, can view his or her information. Also, the PI can then make a decision and proceed by choosing accept or reject. Finally, the PI may want to record a reason for his decision. When he or she clicks on comment area, a comment can be added. The tasks for this user story can be viewed here. Now let's take a look at the documentation. In the use case diagram, we'll be focused on the actor PI. He or she can access the PI acceptance page and view all the users that have applied for a project. The PI at this point has several options to choose from. If the PI wants to view a user's resume, he or she can select Resume. If the PI wants to then accept a user in a project, he or she can select Accept. If the PI wants to then reject a user in a project, he or she can select Reject. Finally, if the PI wants to add a comment to explain choice, he or she can comment and select Submit. Now let's look at the class diagram. The main controller for this user story is the PI controller. It contains a user model attribute and 6 functions. The functions included are accept function that takes a user ID and index as parameters, a reject function that takes a user ID and index as parameters, a resume function that takes a user ID parameter, a subcom function that takes a user ID and index as parameters, and a hide1 function followed by a hide2 function. This controller connects to the user service, which allows PI controller to call different services, which is connected to the API. These services include all service, update PI accept service, update PI reject service, get resume service, and update PI comment service. These services are linked to the user model, which can be updated or changed within the user repository. In this user story, the fields within the user model that can be changed include PI approval and PI comment. Now let's take a look at the sequence diagram for this user story. When the PI clicks on the project acceptance page, the function all will be called by the controller, which places a put request for all users. Upon success, the view will be updated and the PI can now view all users in their specific projects. Now let's say the PI decides to accept a student in Project X. Upon pressing the accept button function, the accept button within the PI controller will be called, which this function will then call update PI accept user service, which will update the PI approval and change its field to accept. A success will be sent back all the way to the user and alert and notify the PI. Now the PI would like to reject a student presses the reject button. This button calls the reject function in the PI controller, which then calls the update PI reject service. The PI approval field will be updated to reject and a success sent back and an alert provided to the PI. Now let's say the PI would like to submit a comment. He presses the submit button, which then calls a subcom function, which in return will then call an update PI comment. The PI comment field will be updated and a success sent back and an alert sent to the PI. Now suppose the PI presses the resume button. The resume function will be called in the PI controller, and then the get resume user service will be called, which will retrieve all the fields from the resume. The success will be sent back. Also, Another function will be called within the resume function called the hide1 function, which will hide the table, and then the PI will now be able to view the resume. When the PI wants to exit resume, he presses the exit resume button. Hide2 will be called, and the resume will now be hidden, and he will be able to view the tables. Now we'll look at some code. This is the PI controller. In this controller, we have 5 variables. HideMe1 and HideMe2 simply are Boolean, which are used to hide the table and resume. Then we have user.all. This is the user service all that we're calling in order to retrieve all JSON objects of users. It will return a collection of JSON objects to vm.users, which will then be used on the HTML to display all the users in their projects. Next, we have the accept function. It will use the update PI accept user service, and upon success will alert the PI that the user was accepted. Following that is the reject function, which will follow the same logic and call the update PI reject, and upon success will also alert the PI. Next, we have the resume function. It will call hide1, which will turn HideMe1 into true and HideMe2 into false. Next, I'll call the getResume user service, which will retrieve all the resume information, and the resume will now be visible. Last, we have the subcom function, which will store the text comment from the HTML into vm.userdata.comment. Then, the user update PI comment user service will be called, and the data updated in the repository. An alert will be provided to PI. Finally, the vm.userdata.text comment will be set to nothing in order to clear the comment section. Now we'll look at some services. When the update PI accept service is called, a put request will be made. We'll find the user by ID, and then that user's PI approval will be updated. The same logic will be followed when the update PI reject is called. We'll find the user by the ID, and then update PI approval to reject. As you can see, the update PI comment follows the same logic, and a simple put request is made. Finally, I'd like to specify some improvements that can be made on this web page in order to increase the functionality of the page. First and foremost, a search bar should be added in order to make it easy for the PI to find a specific project or person instead of having to scroll down the list. The second addition that can be made involves the already implemented email system. When a PI accepts a student into a project, an email can be sent to the faculty member in order to inform him that a new student has been accepted to his project, and he should review that student. Now we can look at the second user story. We can find this user story under Sprint 4 on card 715. The user story states, as a faculty member, I would like to review each student's resume that has been chosen by PI to participate in the faculty member's project, so that that faculty member can accept or reject the student's participation. User story description. Once the PI has accepted that student into the project, the faculty member will also be given a chance to accept or reject the student into his or her project. He or she will be able to view the student's resume and make a decision. User story acceptance criteria. The faculty member must be able to accept or reject a student, view the student's resume, and add a comment for his or her reason if necessary. In this use case diagram, we'll be focused on the faculty actor. He or she can access the faculty projects page and view all students that have been accepted into his or her project. The faculty member at this point has several options to choose from. If the faculty member wants to view a student's resume, he or she can select Resume. If the faculty member wants to then accept a student into a project, he or she can select Accept. If the faculty member wants to then reject a student into a project, he or she can select Reject. If the faculty member would like to add a comment to explain his or her choice, simply add the comment and select Submit. Now let's look at the class diagram. The main controller for this user story is the faculty controller. It contains a user model attribute and 6 functions. The functions included are Accept function that takes a user ID and index parameter, the Reject function that takes a user ID and index parameters, the Resume function that takes a user ID parameter, the SubCom function that takes a user ID and index parameter, hide1 function, and hide2 function. This controller connects to the user service, which allows FacultyController to call different services, which is connected to the API. These services include Stud Project Name Service, User Peers Service, Update Fact Accept Service, Update Fact Reject Service, Get Resume Service, and Update Fact Comment Service. These services are linked to the user model, which can be updated or changed within the user repository. In this user story, the fields within our user model that can be changed include staff approval and fact comment. Now we will look at the sequence diagram. When a faculty member clicks on the faculty projects page, the controller will call a Stud Project Name Service and retrieve the project name for the email provided. Next, the User Peers Service will be called, and all students with Project X will be returned excluding the faculty member with email provided. The faculty member will then be able to view the table with all the students listed. The faculty member can now press the Accept button. The Accept function will be called in the controller. The controller will call the Update Fact Accept User Service, which will update the student's staff approval section. Upon success, it will return to the front and alert the faculty member. Then the faculty member can choose the Reject button. The Reject function will be chosen. The Reject function will call the Update Fact Reject Service. Upon success, it will return, and the faculty member will be alerted. The faculty member also has the option to add a comment. By pressing the Submit button, the SubCom function will be called. This function will call the Update Fact Com User Service. Upon success, it will return, and the faculty member will be alerted. The last option that can be chosen is the Resume button. When the Resume button is clicked, the Resume function will be called. First, Get Resume User Service will be called. Upon success, will return, and the hide1 function will also be called, which the hide1 function will hide the table and allow the resume to be viewed. Upon completion of the faculty member reviewing the resume, he or she may exit by pressing the button. The hide2 function will then be called, and the resume will be hidden while the tables will become in view again. We will now look at the FacultyController Code. We have 3 variables, HideMe2, HideMe1, and text comment. HideMe1 and 2 are used to hide the table and resume and display the table and resume. Text comment is used to hold the comment made by the faculty member. VM.token is a token that will have all the user's information that's currently logged in. We get this by calling getPayload. From that, we can obtain the email and pass that email to the student project name service, which will return the project name, which will then be used in the user peers service in order to obtain all students in the project. The accept function will call the update FacultyAcptRjct service, which will then update the staff approval field in the current object to alert faculty member that student's been accepted. We also have a reject function that follows the same logic and we'll call the update FacultyRject. And in this case, the staff approval will be equal to reject. The resume and subcom functions work exactly the same as the first user story in this video. We will now look at the user services. User peers service uses a GET request that first finds all objects in the repository that have a specific project name, but excludes any object that has a specified email. This is used in order to get all students and exclude the actual faculty member. Next, we'll look at the student prod name service. This service requests a GET, and then it says user find by one, which will find the object in the database that has that email. Then once we have that user object, we can extract the project from that and return it. Next, we'll quickly look at the FacultyAccept and FacultyReject services. These services use the same exact logic as the PI, accept and reject, as seen in the video earlier. Along with these two services, the FactComment uses similar logic as well. The last thing I'd like to do is explain how this website could be improved and functionality could be added. First, a drop-down menu could be added so a faculty member that has multiple projects could then select which project he or she wants to view. As of right now, this is not possible. Another improvement would be to implement the email system that's already in the VIP website. When the faculty member chooses accept or reject, an email will be sent to the PI in order to inform that he has made a decision. And if he has chosen to reject them, the PI must then choose a different project for that student. That concludes both user stories reference videos.